Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Southampton. It is 6:01, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. This is a work session, so there is not public comment tonight, but we do have a board presentation, and it is the preliminary proposal for the preservation of open space, expansion of Agawam Park, creation of Southampton Gardens, replacement of the lake section of Pond Lane with a water cleaning vegetative buffer, bicycle path and nature trail, installation of algae removal technology to clean up Lake Agawam, and increase public access along the lake shoreline. This will be presented by the Lake Agawam Conservancy, representatives of Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees, and Peter Marino, architect. So I'm going to turn this now over to the Lake Agawam Conservancy for the presentation. And the board will sit here and we will ask questions at some point. But we'll turn it over to you, Chuck Scarborough, at this point.
Well, thank you, Mayor Manker. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Mic working all right? I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much for inviting us in to share this with you. And what I'm going to do is just give you a brief overview of how it was that an effort to restore a lake led to what could be a very transformative moment in the history of this village. Now, historically, Lake Agawam has been the center of village life. These are historic photographs. You can see here sailboats by moonlight, probably a romantic sail going on in Lake Agawam many, many years ago. Another picture we have here. Oh, that's good. Thank you. This is, if you look carefully, I think that's Makamonto in the background, but you see the lake is dotted with boats, and you see a couple in their Sunday finery there on the dock. And people swam in Lake Agawam. Here's a photograph of people actually in the water by a pier, on the pier, in their bathing costumes. And of course, the famous Captain Pyrrhus Conser was running a shuttle service from the beach to the town and back. And this is a photograph, I'm told, of him actually at the helm of his catboat, paying customers back and forth. The point is that this lake always played a central role in the heart of the village. But that was 150 years ago, and things have changed. Over the last 150 years, we've had a lot of development. We've had an overload of pollutants coming into the lake, mainly nitrogen and phosphorus from the development that grew over 150 years. And that began to fuel blue-green algae. The blooms of blue-green algae began to become more extensive and more serious. They grew, they became more frequent, and finally, a few years ago, we earned the distinction of being the second most polluted lake in the state of New York, which was pretty tough. At that point, John Paulson spearheaded an effort to formed this Lake Agawam Conservancy, patterned after the Central Park Conservancy. It was a public-private partnership that we would get together and try to be more aggressive in our ways to clean up the lake and to find new ways as well to try to clean up the problem and restore the lake to its rightful place, to make it inviting, make it pleasant, make it usable for recreation again for the village and all of its citizens. And we were doing a lot of things which you're going to hear about later, and have been doing them, that have had a measurable impact. But one of the things we were doing led us to Pond Lane. And if you can see right along, this is just the north end of the lake, and Pond Lane is at the top of the picture there. Pond Lane was a particular problem as we were building bioswales and buffers to try to restore the shoreline and stop the pollutants from coming in. Pond Lane was a problem because of the topography. It's downward sloping, it accelerates runoff. And also, then you've got a 21-foot wide strip of asphalt that is very, very close to the shoreline. So it was very problematic trying to figure out what we might do to address the issues along Pond Lane. That's a quarter-mile long on the lakeshore. And looking at that, there was one of these what-if moments. because on the west side of Pond Lane was the Wyman property. And the Wyman property was for sale. There were 2 lots up there. And so we suddenly thought, what if? What if we could turn this into a public park? If the village could acquire those 2 lots and marry that with the CPF lot that was already purchased, we'd have 12 acres on the waterfront. There could be a marvelous 12-acre waterfront park in the heart of the village that would be there forever. And we could replace Pond Lane with a bike path and a walking trail. That seemed like it would solve an awful lot of problems. Certainly with the lake, ecologically it was a good idea to control the runoff into the lake. And aesthetically it was a good idea. A marvelous preservation of land, the likes of which might not happen again. And as we were talking about this, it sparked the imagination of Peter Marino. And Peter jumped in and designed a spectacular public garden. So that gave birth to the idea of Southampton Gardens, where we'd have a wonderful, world-class public garden on that 12-acre parcel, tripling the size of Agawam Park, and and opening a quarter mile of the shore to access to the public, which is part of the mission of the Conservancy. More public access, broadening the public scope and use of the lake. The problem was, as you can see, it says once in a lifetime opportunity for Southampton. It's a little more aggressive than that because this was a kind of a one-time only proposition. There was developer interest in these parcels. And it became clear that this, if it became sold to a developer, that the opportunity to create this magical oasis in the middle of the village of Southampton, in the heart of the village, would be lost. There'd be some McMansions up there or something opposite the lake. So John Paulson did an extraordinary thing to preserve the option, while we worked with the CPF and tried to work on the park plan, to preserve the option of making a park and creating this. He purchased both lots with the idea of selling one to the CPF at his cost and donating the other one to the park. It was an extraordinary thing he did. And that's where we are today, the purchase and the preservation of that lot. There are 2 other things that are happening here technologically that are going to, I think, advance the cleaning up of the lake. We've had some success with everything we've done, but combined with everything we've done, the algae harvester from AECOM and the permeable reactive barrier both will do great things for the lake. The permeable reactive barrier at the north end will try to block that, will block some of that nitrogen and phosphorus coming into the lake and neutralize it. And the algae harvester actually removes algae from the lake at a rapid pace, filters it, and returns clarified water to the lake. So we can get ahead of it and keep the lake healthy, get it healthy in a few years, very short order, maybe 2 years. Chris will tell you more about that. But we can make the lake safe to use, to not perhaps swim in just yet, but certainly to boat in, to be safe in the near future. And then while we tackle the long-term problem of the sewer system and the septic systems throughout the entire Lake Agawam watershed and tackle that. But the end goal is pretty much in sight here. And I think that if you think about what this would be, this marvelous park in the center of the village, this public garden, I think the one issue that is a problem for a lot of people, many of them in this room, is closing Pond Lane, a section of Pond Lane, and replacing it with a bike path and a trail. And I understand that. There are 2 big objections. One of them is, what will it do for traffic? We have an answer for that. You're going to hear that a bit later. The other one is, it's just a very pretty little road, and people love driving around it. And I understand that. I do. I like driving around the lake, too. It's my preferred route. When I leave home and go to town for any reason, if I got to go to the hardware store or the drugstore, I take the Lake Agawam route, Pond Lane. Except when I'm in a hurry and I don't want to get caught at a duck jam, and then I'll head on up to Culver Hill and end up at the same place with the same options of going of avoiding Hill Street. So I would say that even though I enjoy my 30 seconds or so of drive-by pleasure, I would happily, personally, trade that for this magical oasis in the middle of the village, quiet, safe, where families can come and walk around a spectacular garden, or they can stroll along a quarter-acre of waterfront that is now accessible and restored, and bring their children to feed the ducks safely without any automobiles going by, or maybe they could walk down and put a toe in the water on a new floating dock or platform that we install in the lake without access. Or people could just sit by the lakeside along this new accessible area and gaze out over a restored lake that was alive again with sailboats filling their sails with sea breezes plying the waters and rowboats going out there, maybe even paddle boarders out on the lake enjoying it, and possibly a swimmer going by. This is what we would hope for the future, and I hope that as you see this unfold now, with what you're going to see in the next hour, that you will come to appreciate what we can gain, here in the future, and what we will do for the village now, and the gift it will present to future generations. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bob Jifra, and I have the honor of being the president of the Lake Agawam Conservancy. And I want to thank everyone for coming. And we really appreciate all of your, input, because the plan originally has been to have a lot of public input in this project. And today's the first day for the public input. We haven't really had a chance to sort of lay out the project, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So to sort of take you through how the Lake Agawam Conservancy started, obviously there was a serious issue with toxic blue-green algae in the lake, and there was also an issue with respect to the condition of the lake. And I know a lot of folks are concerned about the impact of the blue-green algae, for example, by the beach. And so what we've been trying to do is address that issue. And one of the first things we did was we brought Chris Gobler in. We wanted to have a very scientific approach, and he's the consultant to the Conservancy. And Chris, maybe why don't you stand up and we can sort of walk through some of this quickly, because we don't have that much time. But what we wanted to do, and this started in 2019, was to restore the jewel of Southampton for the entire community. People talk about, well, there's folks who live around the lake. We want the lake to be everyone's lake. That's the only way this lake will ever stay clean forever. And one of the things that we did was we wanted to have a public-private partnership akin to what the Central Park Conservancy is. And we worked with the state, we worked with the village, we worked with the town trustees, and we've been working together. And there's been some question, like, what have we been doing? And I want to sort of run through that with folks. One of the first things we did was we sponsored an ongoing monitoring of the lake with buoy data. You can go to lakeagawam.org and you can see the data. And Chris will talk about how the lake has gotten better over the last several years. In addition, we've been planting bioswales and native gardens around the lake, so by the beach club and also on Linden Lane. And one of the reasons we actually focused on this particular property is the need to put a bioswale along Pond Lane. Pond Lane was built and started running in 1880 or thereabouts, when there were horses and people were walking. No one had any idea about motor vehicles, much less trucks like you now have on Pond Lane. And obviously, and we'll talk about this, needing a bioswale will make a big difference in keeping the lake clean for everyone, because the goal is that people can swim in the lake, people can boat in the lake. People say, well, that's impossible. People can swim in the East River now. People can swim in the Hudson River. Southampton will be a much different place if we can swim in the lake. I mean, it's almost an embarrassment that we are among the wealthiest communities in the world, and we have one of the most polluted lakes in New York State. We've been having a lily pad removal. That's been going on to try to keep the lake going. We've been having aeration bubblers to oxygenate the lake and make it better, and it's starting to have a difference. We have been doing a lot of chemical-free landscaping, and Megan Magyar has been spearheading that, and people are using better, chemicals on their gardens, and it's making a difference. Was reference to the permeable reactive barrier. That'll be put in place next year. The Conservancy paid for the original study along with the village. And that will block some of the seepage that's coming into Pond Lane, into the lake from the business district. Another thing we've been working on, and this was something that the state did, there's a company called AECOM. And what AECOM did was they did a demonstration project in February 2020. And the purpose of this project was to see if this algae harvester machine would work and help to clean the lake. It actually does work, and I give a lot of credit to the village, and we worked very closely with them. There's $10 million, $5 million from the town CPF and $5 million from the federal government that has been earmarked for this algae harvester, which will be in Dozier Park starting next year. And that algae harvester is literally going to make a serious dent in the problem. The algae harvester will treat up to 3 million gallons of Lake Agawam water every day. Think about that. 3 million gallons per day. It's going to make a significant difference in the quality of the lake. So look, our goal has been to make the lake everyone's lake. Make it so you can swim in the lake, make it so you can sail in the lake. And Chris, maybe you want to say just a word or two about what we've been working on.
Yeah, I mean, you highlighted the biggest points there. This algae harvester was tested when it was put out, and it removes, and I was part of the test and sampling the water. You're removing 90% of the nitrogen, 90% of the phosphorus, 90% of the blue-green algae, and their toxins. And this will run all the time. There's a process known in coastal ecosystems called bioextraction, right? You're extracting the nitrogen and phosphorus out of the water. So by running this all the time, like I said, each time it passes the water through, it's pulling out 90% of the nitrogen and 90% of the phosphorus, and it's being taken out of the watershed. One way I like to think about Lake Agawam, as we probably all know, Long Island was formed about 10,000 years ago by a glacier, right? We have the lake because the glacier stopped above where the lake is, and it made this melt pond. And at the time when that happened, the bottom of Lake Agawam looked just like the ocean. Well, over the last 10,000 years, it's been filling in. And we've measured it. Some of the parts of that lake have almost 10 feet of mud piled in, right? This algae harvester will work that process in reverse, right? The nitrogen and phosphorus that's now built up in there finally will be taken out. So reversing 10,000s of years of process. So
I mean, one of the other things which folks should be aware of, we looked into dredging the lake, and that is incredibly expensive and incredibly disruptive. You're talking about something approaching $100 million, and imagine the smell throughout the whole village. This harvester can make a real difference. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the park plan and the road, and I think that's, and really, again, there's been a lot of information out in the community, or some anyway. I think a lot of it is not accurate, candidly, and we want to try to present everything, answer people's questions, and sort of address this. And I would just note, I was sort of joking, the Eiffel Tower, there are people opposed to the Eiffel Tower. There are people opposed to the elimination of cars in Central Park. Any good idea, people will be opposed, and what we'd like to do is have this be a community project and get everyone on board by going through what we believe to be sort of the facts here. Now, here is the basic situation as it is. There are 3 lots on Pond Lane, which were the Wyman estate. 111, which is now owned by the CPF, and I think Mayor Irving is here. He was very instrumental in getting the town CPF to buy that lot for about $10 million. It's a wooded lot. No one gets to use it. Next to it are 2 other lots, 137 Pond Lane and 153 Pond Lane. And the Paulson Family Foundation, not Mr. Paulson himself, bought this property because we understood that there were spec developers who were looking to put big, ugly houses on this property, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the community. And it's right next to the other CPF properties. So you're looking at a huge amount of land right in the central part of the village. Now, we've been talking with the town, we've been talking with the village, the prior mayor, the current mayor, and everyone has been very supportive of this. And the town CPF, from the beginning, said that they would be prepared to buy the larger parcel, which is 137 Pond Lane, for exactly the same price that the Paulson Family Foundation paid to get it. And then Mr. Paulson and his foundation are prepared to donate the other lot to this park. Okay, so the town and the community, for basically $13.25 million, are going to get a total of over 8 acres, which will be public land forever. Now, the town CPF, over the past 13 or 14 years, has collected nearly $1 billion in revenue. Approximately 30% of that revenue was generated in the village of Southampton. There's not a lot of property, open space in the village of Southampton, yet only 5% of the acquisitions, and probably the biggest one was on Pond Lane, was acquired through the CPF, and the purpose of the CPF is to preserve open space. That's in everyone's interest. Now, these two pieces of land, 137 Pond Lane and 153 Pond Lane, are a fabulous, beautiful property, and I urge folks to go up there and take a look at it, see the property. Imagine that is public space forever. Now, this was literally on the website at Sotheby's of the house that they were proposing could be built at 137 Pond Lane. I mean, it looks like a spaceship. And by Mr. Paulson heroically put $25 million through his family foundation to stop this. And, you know, people have said, you know, a number of things, and let me sort of just dispel some of the rumors that are sort of out there about this, which I think are important. You know, there's no deal with any adjoining landowner. No one in the Conservancy Board has any financial interest in any of the land adjoining this, other than the two lots that are owned by the Paulson Family Foundation. The land where Pond Lane itself is, that belongs to the village and will continue to be owned by the village forever. And you know, this is going to obviously be a multi-step process, and the acquisition by the town CPF of the first lot is the first step in a long process where we want public input. Now, this is sort of an earlier, you know, version of what this could potentially look like, and that's just, you know, shows you the sheer scale of this. When you compare that to Lake Agawam Park, the addition to it would make it 3 times bigger. You know, it's 3 times bigger than the existing park. You'd have almost 18 acres of parkland in the middle of Southampton, land that, you know, otherwise would be developed. And we want the design in Mr. Marino's garden. He has got a design. We want public input into that design and how it should be done. Now, one of the ideas that's behind this project is having actual public access to the lake for people to swim in the lake, boat in the lake, and obviously that's all subject to doing additional work and having additional reviews done, but giving folks the opportunity for input. But just imagine, you know, people say, well, I do live on Lake Agawam. I could bring my boat out if it was clean. My grandchildren could, maybe I don't have them yet, but they could potentially swim there. But there's literally a quarter of a mile, of land that can now be available for public access for everyone in the village. Make this everyone's lake like it was in the beginning. Now, one of the issues that's very important, and I think it's a complexity that I think has been lost on some folks who, you know, there's a lot of rumor mongering about this. The algae harvester is going to be placed in Dozier Park. That's parkland. In order to do that, there needs to be a swap of parkland. You can't, in New York State, take parkland and just turn it into a place to put an algae harvester. And that's the only place that makes any sense for the algae harvester, which again is going to result in 3 million gallons of water being cleaned every day. So you need a location. In order to do that, there needs to be a swap of the Dozier land with 137 Park Lane, which is now owned by the Paulson Foundation. So we don't get the algae skimmer, which will clean up the lake, unless we do this land acquisition. Now, the Southampton Gardens, and Peter will talk about them, are fantastic. Anyone who's ever been in Peter's garden, it blows you away. One of the handouts is from Architectural Digest. This would be a huge asset of the village of Southampton for the people of Southampton. And one thing I just wanted to sort of raise, which has been raised, we're confident that we can obtain the funding, private funding, to build and maintain the gardens. Again, the Paulson Family Foundation is prepared to donate one of the lots, which is worth over $10 million. Other members of the Conservancy Board have indicated a willingness to make substantial donations. We've spoken to other people who are prepared to make substantial donations, and we're confident the money can be privately raised. And I think people will want to donate to a garden that's designed by one of the great architects in the world. We will, I think when the time comes when we have to build that buffer along the lake, probably go, and almost certainly will go to the CPF to try to get that work done. Now I want to talk a little bit about another benefit of this for the village. This gardens can be a catalyst for the growing Southampton Arts District. It would be literally right there. Massive benefit to the village of Southampton. Now, the plan and how this would all be done is the Conservancy, and it would be modeled on the Central Park Conservancy. We would privately raise the money to maintain the gardens. We would manage the gardens. It obviously would be subject to review by both the town and the village. And we've again secured the donations to do that. Now let's talk about Pond Lane and why we are where we are on that. Pond Lane would remain open 24/7 to bicyclists and pedestrians. There would be 24/7 access to emergency vehicles, and there would be 2 cul-de-sacs at the bottom of Pond Lane and then another one right at Pond Lane, and so people could drive down and then drive out as they do now. But again, think about that quarter of mile of direct public access. Now you get 15 seconds in your car when you're dodging the ducks. Here you'd be able to walk in peace and be able to look at a beautiful road, a beautiful lake. Now, one of the things I wanted to focus on a bit, and I know the mayor is very familiar with this, is the comprehensive village plan. A lot of work went into this plan, and this proposal is something that is directly and supported by the plan. Open space, check 1. Bicyclists and pedestrians and being concerned about that safety. An arts district, all of those things focusing on the environment. Those are the key cornerstones of the master plan, which was unanimously adopted by the village and village trustees. And in the actual comprehensive plan, they talk about, well, what are the priority parcels in the village for CPF purchase? The 2 properties on Pond Lane, they're right near the center of the village. They're clearly, eminently desirable. A lot of the money is being raised in the village. It should be spent to keep open space as opposed to having these spaceship houses that would be built there anyway. Now, if you again look in the Southampton comprehensive plan, one of the concerns is pedestrian safety. Another is the need for an expanded bike network, things that we don't have and could really use, and this project is consistent with that. And in the actual in the comprehensive plan in September 2022, it talks about Agawam Park being a focal point in the village center. And it talks about how it's a connection to the business district. This will help the business district, not hurt it. And it references the opportunity in the village plan to close Pond Lane to vehicles and connect Agawam Park and have this big, massive park in the middle of Southampton. People think that East Hampton is beautiful. We will blow them away when this is done. Another point in the village plan, it talks about, again, acquiring the properties on the west side of Pond Lane adjacent to the lake and having a bike path and closing portions of the lane to vehicles. Now, here's some important reasons, and people have asked this question. Again, the closure is only to motor vehicles. That's it. Why do you need to do this? Well, the only way you can create this garden in this park and have it be safe for people is if you're not having cars and trucks and the trade parade whizzing by all day long. No one can use the lake. Imagine if you had a kayak and you wanted to go down and there are cars driving down the road. There's no place to do that. You have no opportunity for public access to the lake. It won't be safe. And then there's the problem of the buffer. There's not enough space on the current Pond Lane, which is right up against the lake, to build a proper buffer. And if you compare what's on Gin Lane, for example, the road is further back. There's all kinds of drainage that's been put in, and you already have buffer. There's nothing on Pond Lane. Now, right now, you got the 15 seconds when you drive down Pond Lane. That's your public access, as opposed to the ability to walk down it with your family, bring a boat potentially, and go off the lake directly, and then enjoy this world-class garden. Now, there's a number of issues. Right now, you have a situation where pedestrians and bicyclists compete with motor vehicles. It's not safe. You don't have a dedicated bike, jogging, or pedestrian path. And there have been, and there's a blind corner, and our traffic consultants have said to us, the amount of sight that you have here is, you're supposed to have 150 feet. Here at best you have 100 feet. And there was, and we confirmed this during this process, there was a fatality in 1995 of a 16-year-old boy. And I've always wondered why the flowers are right there, and that's why. The parents obviously leave the flowers there. It's a very unsafe corner, and that can't be denied. So the question is, well, you don't do this, what do? You have to move the road over and then change the curvature of it, but then you don't get the park. Now, anyone who's driven down Pond Lane obviously knows about the problem of competing with the ducks in the park, on the road. It's not very safe. Sometimes people will stop with their children and want to feed the ducks, and you've got cars barreling down Pond Lane. Another issue is there's no protection for runoff from the road. It goes right into Lake Agawam, and that's not a good condition. Another issue is we don't have stormwater management there, and that would all be put in as part of this project. Another issue that we have is without the buffer and the stormwater management, you won't have a clean Lake Agawam. And people who complain, for example, about the drainage going into the ocean and the impact on people who are swimming, the only way that will stop is if we clean Lake Agawam. Yes, Chris?
Yeah, and I just want to say with that, the property there, not having the road there, creates an incredible opportunity to actually clean the lake. And I think this whole project, with the gardens included, can be a net negative load of nitrogen to the lake and a net negative load of phosphorus to the lake. So the idea is along that property there, you can have plantings that on their own will prevent the runoff. I mean, we all know, if you've been paying attention, what the rainfall's been like this summer, right? That is an ongoing trend. NOAA reports there's been a 71% increase in heavy rainfall that's happened all at once in the Northeast U.S. since the middle of the 20th century. That's projected to continue to increase. And when you get these deluges of water, as I'm sure you've seen it, it bypasses everything. So all of that water then goes directly into the lake, delivering nitrogen, phosphorus, and other pollutants. There's the opportunity to create, one, a buffer there that would intercept that, but two, to do something that's already being done in Town Pond, and that is to take the water from the lake, in addition to having it go through the algae harvester, to circulate that through the vegetation as well. And that, again, will help remove the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the other pollutants, and other contaminants. And all these things get towards the situation where this becomes a water body that can be recreationally used by the public.
I mean, Chris, you should mention, one of the issues that I've heard folks raise is how are you going to deal with watering the gardens? And Chris, I think we've talked about that. We believe we can use lake water to irrigate the gardens. It's actually good for the gardens. So we believe that this will certainly be positive for the lake, not negative for the lake as a long-term matter. I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, and we're even looking to begin a pilot of that. So again, it's being done in Town Pond right now, and we're starting, and we have the applications in to do a pilot of that exactly here in Lake Agawam, and if the part goes, then that can be expanded. And again, there's no reason this project couldn't be a net negative load of nitrogen and phosphorus. That is removing more than anything that would potentially go in.
And again, one of the other issues we have is, there's invasive vegetation along Lake Agawam, along Pond Lane. You can't really see the lake in certain parts. All that would be fixed as part of this project. Right now, there's limited views to Lake Agawam. Again, you'd have direct open views. People could walk leisurely down Lake Agawam, run down Lake Agawam, down Pond Lane, and have the opportunity to really see the lake. Again, remember, Pond Lane, 1880, no one contemplated big service trucks going down this road. They didn't exist. There were no cars. Now, this is a very important point. Right now, there's a 2.9 acre CPF parcel that, again, Mayor Irving was responsible for bringing in. This is literally what it looks like right now. It's not being used. It's right in the center of the village, and it now can be incorporated into Lake Agawam Park. It'd be something for everyone to use. Another issue is, again, we can put in the pond edge, and this is buffers that we've already planted during the course of the work of the Conservancy all along Pond Lane, and again, we'll also have some access for recreation along the lake. Another issue, obviously, is to improve the stormwater management. That's the bioswale at Linden Lane. That's another piece of this entire puzzle. It's a multifaceted puzzle, and we want the community to be part of the process. Again, we believe that this quarter mile of direct access will, again, restore the public's, not just the people who live on Lake Agawam, but the public's connection with the lake. The lake will, again, become a central part, as Chuck talked about, of village life. And again, now maybe I know that there's been an issue raised about traffic, and I'm certainly not an expert on traffic, and someone who is, Carrie O'Farrell, is going to talk about traffic, and she's with Nelson Pope, and she's a senior partner there. So Carrie? That way.
Good evening. My name is Carrie O'Farrell. I am the senior partner at Nelson Pope and Voorhees, and we have prepared a number of studies in the village to address the proposed closure of Pond Lane as well as questions related to pedestrian activity, parking, circulation, site distance, and accident history. So available for review, there is a traffic study that involved traffic counts prepared taken both in a regular week in April 2022 and then Memorial Day weekend in 2022. That was again done in 2023 for Memorial Day weekend, and then the week following in early June. And then we just conducted an additional count in the beginning of August of 2023. So we have been able to analyze the trips that exist on Pond Lane, and in particular, the trips that exist from the portion along Lake Agawam, which is proposed for closure. So the important part to understand is Pond Lane is used in some respect as a cut around or a cut through. So we wanted to make sure that we counted the lower portion of Pond Lane in order to capture the through traffic, not just the traffic that might be entering Pond Lane on the north side to access some of the existing park and some of the uses on the north side. So that traffic study, as I mentioned, is available. It demonstrates that Pond Lane, the volume of traffic is not particularly high for through traffic. The closure is actually a benefit because another portion of the study involved the pedestrian activity and bicyclist activity on Pond Lane. And this is a very heavily utilized roadway for pedestrians. Again, that count was conducted at the beginning of August. It showed a range of between 400 pedestrians to over 870 plus pedestrians utilizing Pond Lane during. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Utilizing Pond Lane from a pedestrian standpoint. So the idea of closing that portion of Pond Lane, redirecting traffic back to First Neck Lane, is something that is, again, something that the traffic study demonstrates is very a benefit to the public. We also expect that the pedestrian activity would increase if Southampton Gardens does turn into a public space. Again, additional pedestrian traffic in this area really conflicts with the vehicle traffic in the area.
I'm sorry, Kara, can I interrupt?
Sure.
So those numbers you quoted, could you tell me what period was that, though? I know you gave the dates, but I mean, was that for the whole day? Was it?
Yes.
I mean, what?
Yes, we did. The counts were done from 5 a.m. to, I believe, 10 p.m.
So it would be
day.
for an entire day. There were how many pedestrians?
I can get you the specific numbers, but it varied by day. We
Yeah.
did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. At the beginning of August, the most pedestrians were found on Sunday. That was 870 some odd.
Okay, no,
right here.
that's fine. Thank you. I just wasn't sure what the time period was.
874, yeah.
Thank you.
And again, it ranged it ranged from 400 on a Friday through it was 637 on Saturday and 874 on Sunday.
Thank you.
Sure. We also took a look at accident history and found that Pond Lane, in particular at the intersection of Pond Lane and Hill, there is some significant accident activity. It is over a 3-year period. We collected data from DOT, which is a typical duration. They found 24 accidents at that intersection. The closure has the benefit of removing some of that through traffic. So that additional traffic that currently utilizes Pond Lane for the cut through would be removed, therefore potentially reducing vehicle accidents at that intersection and providing some relief. Again, the study concludes that First Neck Lane can accommodate the additional vehicles and a overall public benefit to reducing the number of vehicles and pedestrian conflicts. We also completed a site distance analysis. As mentioned, the roadway is not designed to current standards. It's an old roadway. It has a sharp curve, and that curve limits the sight distance as you approach for, again, all those pedestrians that utilize that roadway. It limits the ability for vehicles to see as they approach that curvature at the south side of Pond Lane. So those reports will be available, and I am available for other questions. Oh, parking, yeah, sorry, of course, parking. There was a parking study that was done in 2021 that identified all the public parking either on street or public lots within a 5-minute walking distance of the Southampton Gardens area. There is a number of existing, at least 700 plus parking spaces in the vicinity. Again, a 5-minute walk was what we used as a reasonable distance. It found that there was a variety of parking locations in close proximity to the proposed park, and that there were available spaces in excess of 200 in the peak periods. There is also a provision, as mentioned, that additional parking can be provided at Dosher Park, and a pedestrian connection between the Dosher Park following the existing boardwalk and expanding to the west into Southampton Gardens. So that would be something that would be further evaluated.
Can you talk about car traffic using Pond Lane?
Oh, sure. In terms of existing conditions?
Yes.
Sure. So the existing, again, we did 3 different intersections for the existing conditions counts. I mentioned the different time frames, so we were trying to understand a sort of a typical day, a holiday weekend, and then peak August conditions. So we have data available for all 3 of those. We did Pond Lane on the south side of Agawam Park in the vicinity. It was about 250 feet south of Hill Street. We did First Neck Lane and Culver Street west of Pond Lane. So the through volumes, again, the day of the week kind of, it varies in terms of the overall vehicle counts, but a typical traffic is measured. Let me back up a second. We look at peak hours of the roadway. So when is the roadway busiest? During a typical weekday, the morning peak hour is considered 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. The evening peak is 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. On a weekend, that peak is more in the middle of the day, so 11 to 2 is typically when roadways peak. And what's interesting about this area, we have 2022 data and we have 2023 data. And the 2022 data showed that the peak of this area during the week was more towards the middle of the day, which was interesting. 2023 was much more traditional in terms of the morning AM peak and the afternoon peak, typical to most roadways. The volume on Pond Lane, the peak hour, so this is a total number of trips on Pond Lane, was 96 trips total in that 2-hour period. So when you think about that a little more realistically, that's less than 1 trip per minute, on just a regular basis, to kind of get your head around what that means. The PN peak, that was for the holiday, the holiday week. Just to give a comparison, the non-holiday week, the average peak was 47. So a pretty sizable difference to the Memorial Day week increase. And then a Saturday peak for the holiday was 150 vehicles over that 2-hour period, compared to 72 on a regular Saturday.
These reports will all be made public, so that's, you guys don't have any more questions or want to
Keep going.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
John's going to say a few words now.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for coming today. Good afternoon, village trustees. Could you back it up? I think this slide shows why we're so excited about it. The green lot is the old Wyman estate. That would become the public gardens. And when you look at the beautiful Lake Agawam, there's a choice. It could be 2 separate home sites or a public park. And what attracted me, what I got excited about, was instead of being to private residences was preserving this incredible property for the benefit of all the village residents and town residents. And what you could also see on this map, all the homes, the properties come down to the lake. That's what creates the beauty. There is no road in front of the homes going back and forth between the beach and the town. And we wanted to apply that same concept to the Southampton Gardens, that it would be open, it would be a waterfront park, open 24/7 to bicyclists and pedestrians. We said a lot, but now my goal is to introduce Peter. Central to our plans is the participation of Peter Marino in the design of the park. We all know Peter. He's one of the world's most renowned architects, responsible for private residences of untold elegance and groundbreaking projects for Louis Vuitton, Dior, Chanel, all around the world, and most recently, the magnificent Tiffany store in New York. What is not widely known is that Peter is also a world-class landscape designer. His 12-acre estate gardens in Southampton are among the most beautiful in the world. We have provided copies of an Architectural Digest article on the gardens for everyone here. Rizzoli also published a book, for those that can get one, on Peter's Southampton Gardens. We are so lucky to have Peter willing to design the gardens for us, creating pro bono. And if anyone knows, that's a big, very generous offer from Peter. Creating what he has done privately to be available publicly
It's actually not
to all.
pro bono, John. I asked for $2 and you offered me $1.
Okay, well, we have to always negotiate. But what he's going to do is create something available that was only available privately to be available publicly to all the residents of Southampton. It's my pleasure to introduce Peter Marino.
If I get $1, you get the benefit, sorry. guys. This
Yes, I think so.
Seen all the big boards.
Knows a nice guy like me that can do things like this. I was having coffee with John one morning, and he comes to visit my gardens quite often. I was complaining because I was working on my gardens, which are 12 acres, hardly matching the 12-acre site. I was complaining after 30 years of doing my gardens.
Can you try to use the mic a little bit?
I was complaining to John that after 30 years of doing gardening on the 12 acres, I had an inordinate number of people saying, "Hey, can I visit your gardens?" You know, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of live there, and they're going, "Yeah, but I want to visit your gardens." And we started opening it mildly to the public. The publication of the book really killed it. It then appeared on the National Garden Conservancy tour, after which we got over 1,000 requests. "Hey, can I visit your garden?" So John said, "I've got an idea as to how to get rid of all those people. I've got 12 acres over here on Lake Agawam. You have the chance to make that garden much prettier than yours, and then no one will ever bother you again." So I went, sounds worth it. So I'll tell you, in my gardening concepts, I have two concepts for gardens, which are based on my gardening philosophy. One is I'm an architect. It's hopeless. I do gardens which are called based on rooms and axes, and we'll show you in a bit. The rooms, I do rooms. That means they're surrounded by evergreens. and the inside of the rooms usually have one color maximum. And then I have axes because I'm an architect and I can't get over it. So the first principle are color rooms, which you'll see it's quite pretty unique in garden design. And the second principle that John noticed was more than 50% of my garden is evergreens. And the garden that I propose for the village is that it is a 4-season garden. It's very easy to make a springtime garden with a lot of daffodils. It's very easy to make a summer garden. It ain't so easy to make an autumn garden and a winter garden. And one of the things that's successful about my 12 acres is I've got something beautiful to look at every month of the year. So now I'm going to abandon the microphone. I'll talk as loudly as I can. So we've got a proposed brick path to help with the bioswale. And then I've got what I call a mama bear, a papa bear, and a baby bear. The mama bear would be a large gathering spot with a fountain. That fountain, the sound of running water is always super pleasant to relax on a Sunday when we have the 800 pedestrians coming by. On either side of the pond would be Nilophar, which would bloom, of course, in July and August. Then we go up to a very large great lawn. That's a Central Park concept. And the great lawn, we thought, would be available possibly for certain parties and village events. Then we have the little baby bear, which is at the top, which is an all dark green forest and is meditative and small. Then the rooms come. The rooms are pink, purple, yellow, white, and red. And we've proposed a beautiful rose garden. Lynn, we have a little bit of, can we get a little rose garden support here? Southampton has two things which are extraordinary. You have the Garden Conservancy of Southampton and you have the Rose Society. These are great groups, real philanthropists, people who want beautiful gardens. God bless all of you. And that's what it is. I hope you like this. Just to sort of, conclude, I think, again, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the village to create literally 15-acre world-class park and gardens and to open up the lake for everyone. I think it's important to remember that the Parish Art Museum was lost and moved to Watermill because people didn't take advantage of the opportunity that was presented then. And I think this is an opportunity that we will not see again in anyone's lifetime. And I think this is something I want to just, I think people know how to get all of us, but we want to get public input. We want to work with the community. We want the entire community to be behind this. We don't want opposition. I think, no one really expected. We thought maybe some people would ask questions, but we really want to open this up for public comment and dialogue and get everyone's views. Peter, if there's things we need to change in the garden, we'll change things in the garden. If we need to do more at the base of the lake and make it available to people, we are open to all of that. And if there are questions that people have, we will answer them. The traffic study will be made publicly available. We want to get full and complete community buy-in. Like I said at the beginning, people opposed the Eiffel Tower originally. People opposed closing Central Park to cars. Those things turned out to be great decisions. And I think all of us firmly believe that in 50 years, this will be the biggest thing to happen to the village of Southampton, in anyone's lifetime, if this all can be pulled off. The first step in the process is getting the CPF to buy the larger of the lots, and then we move from there. And obviously, we have to work with the trustees, work with the Southampton Town Board, and work with everyone to try to make this everyone's park and garden. So I don't know if the trustees have questions, some of us can answer them, or we can come back again, whatever, makes sense for everyone. But again, we want to have as much public input as we possibly can. No one has all the answers.
No.
I mean, there's a couple of things. One, we can all have a meeting and talk about it. And in fact, I offered, Jessica, I know, has always never liked the idea of closing the road. I emailed Jessica. John and I were prepared.
We can't get into all this tonight.
Yeah,
This is
we don't
just
want to, but we're
for
prepared to have
presentation
meetings and talk
purposes
about it.
only.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm going to ask the Conservancy to work that out on their own. This was just for a presentation to the Board of Trustees this evening. Those that wish to talk to the village board about this, we will have public comment at the next village board meeting, which is September 14th, and we're happy to have those comments. We do have a communication to the board today, which has been received. So we certainly appreciate all communications to the village board and happy to accept those at any time. But at this point, we're not going to get into a back and forth discussion at our work session here tonight because we have other village business to conduct. But I appreciate the presentation. Thank all of you for coming out, for putting this together. Absolutely, sure.
I'm not sure
Trustee
it was
Stevenson.
made clear, I've worked with the town on this. I represented the village in the discussions to trade Dosher Park's use for the algae harvester with the other CPF park. And I think it's important to note that that the town has made it clear that the CPF purchase of one of the lots that the Paulson Family Foundation purchased is contingent upon the closing of Pond Lane. That they've made that a requirement. At least that was made clear to me by Supervisor Schneiderman during those discussions about the trading of Dosher Park with the other CPF park that they'd already acquired.
Okay. Again, you know what? We're not going to get into discussions about this evening. This was just for presentation purposes only at the work session here this evening. I appreciate you all coming out. I hope you all, enjoyed the presentation. I certainly learned a lot this evening, and thank Mr. Marino for coming out and showing us the plans for the garden, and understand there was a lot of work that went into this. A lot of people came and spoke and shared a lot of information about this. The board has to digest this. There certainly, is going to be no decisions made about this anytime too soon. More has to be, thought and put into this. But I think the Conservancy has to figure out how they want to interact, obviously, with the public on some of these issues. And the Board of Trustees will obviously be open to having discussions at our next board meeting on the 14th when it is open for public comment. But this was really just so that we could have an introduction from the Conservancy and Peter Marino as to the project as proposed. And we certainly appreciate the time and effort that went into this presentation here tonight. We will take all of this into consideration, and if we have more questions, we will come forward with those. And look forward to working with you as we to try and figure out how we might be able to work on this. But I want the public to know certainly there's certainly no decisions are made. We're just looking at a preliminary plan here as it was presented tonight. And I want to thank NPV for coming forward with the traffic study. I'm glad to hear they did it over several. I'm sorry, here you are. Over several periods of time, not only in the spring, but then obviously over Memorial Day weekend and then an August weekend. So you did take into account many different times when that road is busier with cars and pedestrians, as you pointed out, and that was very, very helpful to us, and I think for the public to know that as well. So again, I thank you all very, very much for coming, and the next meeting will be on the 14th, and anyone wants to speak at that time, please feel free to come back and speak at that time. But we do have other village board business that needs to be conducted this evening. You're certainly all welcome to stay, but it's not going to be as exciting. So thank you. Yeah. Well, we'll get the report. Carrie.
May I take one of the only brochures there?
Like a bound copy or something from NPV, your traffic study and everything that you could provide to the board? Yeah. So I don't need it tonight. But I mean, sometime this week or something? Yeah. Okay, that'd be great.
We're going to package it all together.
Yeah.
The parking, the traffic, and the pedestrian.
Yeah, I didn't know that you had done something also in August. So, yeah, that would be helpful to get all of that information.
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
So
all right.
we're going to update the traffic report again with the August data.
Uh-huh.
So we piled the data, but we're going to make it into the report. Just yet.
Okay,
So-
no. I appreciate though getting a copy of all of that that we can look at with the board. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
2-minute break or 3-minute break, whatever. Amy, good to see you. Let's just take a break for 2 seconds. Yeah. Maybe 4 minutes.
There's a few steps between that, but yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're the big golfer. Yeah, we had lunch and sip. How you doing? Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, no worries. I understand.
Yeah. Hey, Amanda, how are you? Oh my goodness. Lisa, how are you?
That's so cool.
Well, you asked, but then I tried to reach you, but I didn't hear back from you. So, would you like to stick around? Yes, but, right, yes, correct. But the thing is, I gotta get into this other stuff. I know what you're waiting. I think we should resume, guys.
Yes, it's fine. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Hey, Barb, how are you?
Where's Len?
Leonard?
Leonard!
He's calling you out there.
Oh, there you are. I thought you were still in the men's room.
Even unfair.
He cut, well, Len, just so you know,
Gina!
I have been in the ladies' room. I had him come down.
I
Charlene,
have done
where
that.
are you?
I have done that.
It makes me feel better.
Trustee Aresta.
And it wasn't the first time.
Lynn, did you get one of these? Oh, you have one.
Yes. I think that went. I thought it was really good. Actually better than I thought it would be. Yeah. What?
That's because there were so many people in here.
She doesn't feel we need to have the 12
Oh, okay, that I just disagree with. That I just don't. That's not a good argument. No, that's not a good argument. That's not a good argument. That's not a good one. All right.
Her main concern is that we don't get into a pit of having to pay. 15 minutes.
I understand that.
Thank you for saving
I
me.
understand that.
I'm joking.
You can talk to me about mine.
No, thank you for saving me.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right. But that's not a good argument.
What?
Promising people.
You met our new police officer?
She says we should have an endowment.
We should.
That's what she just told me.
Yeah, to
She's
keep
right.
maintaining it. I agree.
She's right.
All right, sit down. All right, Sage, let me know when we're ready to go. Where's our attorney?
What happened, everybody?
Okay.
Where?
Okay. This is it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Kathy, could you close the door? And Sage, let me know when you're ready. Ready? Okay, well, we didn't really close the meeting, so we'll just resume.
We just,
We took a hiatus, but it's okay. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Charlene,
Yes.
for communications to the board.
okey doke. Well, communication, I don't have the communication.
It's just the one that everybody has in their packet.
It was a correspondence from
It's a letter, but I think everybody.
Tony
has
Edelson,
that.
Lori Carson, Jessica Mezzacapa, Teresa Malhado,
I don't
and Robert
ha- I
Buxton.
don't have a copy of that.
Oh, it's, you know what? It's.
It was,
it's in
it
the
was
right place.
voicing concern about the proposal that we just heard about.
It's right after the agenda. Oh, you didn't get it? Oh.
There's only 15 pages in the entire agenda, so page 4 is a communication to the board.
Oh, okay.
Oh, mine's over here. I saw it.
I
read
kept it all together, so you didn't have to break through. It's just page.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so communications to the board. We have communications from, addressed to the board August 23rd. It is from Henry Idelson, Lori Carson, Jessica Messacapa, Teresa Mahaldo, Robert Buxton, and many other concerned citizens. And the topic is in regard to the presentation that was made this evening. And while they basically summarized that they're in favor of the idea of the park, but opposed to closing Pond Lane.
To vehicular traffic.
Yes,
Okay,
to vehicle
yes,
traffic.
and I think everyone got a copy of this
Yes,
earlier today.
and it was posted to the agenda online.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Administrator, should we go to mayoral appointments?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so mayoral appointment number 1, resolved that the mayor appoints and requests a motion for the Board of Trustees to approve the following appointment extension to December 31st, 2023, council to the Zoning Board of Appeals in Leventhal, Mulhaney, and Blinkoff LLP. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Mayoral appointment number 2, resolved that the mayor appoints and requests a motion for the Board of Trustees to approve the following appointment of Charles Pelez as Ordinance Enforcement Officer at a salary of $90,000 effective September 8th, 2023. Motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I would like to
Unanimous.
move up the mayoral appointment from the supplemental agenda number 1, please.
Okay. Supplemental agenda, resolved Mayor Manger appoints and requests a motion for the Board of Trustees to approve the following appointment. Police Officer John Casabianca at a salary of $65,644.06. 6 cents.
Don't forget the 6
Don't
cents.
forget the 6 cents, that's important. Effective September 8th, 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Many seconds.
Yes,
All in-
many
All in
seconds.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Congratulations.
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 Do you want to say anything while you're here?
I just want to thank all you guys for giving me this opportunity.
Why don't you step here so everybody know what our
They can
new
see
And
your
you're
face.
going to have to
looks
introduce.
like.
You're going to have
You
to introduce yourself.
I'm John.
Hi.
Seriously, thank you guys for this opportunity. It's something I've always wanted. I've worked so hard for it. It's really important for me and my family. So again, thank you. And thanks, Chief. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, if
Thank you.
the
Our
chief didn't
pleasure.
have your back, you wouldn't be here.
That's it. Just gotta have my back.
Uh-oh, watch it.
I'll tell you, I've known John's family. I've known him since he was in diapers. I know his father very well, very hardworking man that has instilled some good values in his son, and I'm happy to have him here as part of the police department. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right,
Welcome.
excellent.
Welcome aboard.
Can we
Okay.
get a picture of you two, please? Right there.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll go back to the suggested resolutions.
Back to
Thank you.
suggested resolutions. Resolution number 1, resolved that the claims for the warrant dated August 21st, 2023, totaling $131,785.74. Warrant A7 General Fund, $73,369.66. Warrant H3 Capital Fund, and $1,700 warrant T5 CS Trust Fund are audited and approved.
Motion?
Motion from the mayor.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 2, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village authorize the village clerk to publish a notice of public hearing to be held Thursday, September 14th, 2023, 6 p.m. as a hybrid in-person/Zoom meeting regarding local law 14-23, the proposal to amend Chapter 116 zoning, specifically Sections 116.9A 3, 16.9A 10A, and 16.9A 11A. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. This is, Andrew, maybe you just want to explain, this is the
Sure.
waterfront law redo.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Mayor. Correct. This is the waterfront law redo with resolution number 3 tonight being a referral to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. Resolution 4 tonight granting the village planner the discretion to make these referrals in the future to hopefully not result in redos.
Right.
But the proposed local law is exactly the same as that which was addressed at the last board meeting. There's no change to the local law.
Right. It's just to make sure that we follow through with referring it to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, which we should always do.
Correct.
So on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 3, resolved in connection with a contemplated amendment to the Village of Southampton Village Code Sections 116.9A 9A3, 116-9A 10A, and 116-9A 11A, which relates to the accessory structures on waterfront lots. The village planner be directed to refer the matter to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, seek lead agency status, and notify interested agencies of the board's intent to seek lead agency status for the purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 4, resolved where the Village of Southampton notices a public hearing for a modification of Chapter 116 of the Village Code and other triggering event at the discretion of the village planner. The village planner is authorized to refer the matter to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, seek lead agency status, and notify interested agencies of the village's intent to seek lead agency status for the purposes of New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees accepts the rebate from the United Communications Corporation in the amount of $500 and directs the Finance Department to make the following budget amendment. Increase miscellaneous revenue in the amount of $500. Increase fire department equipment in the amount of $500. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 6, resolved the Board of Trustees authorizes the following vehicles and equipment to be deemed surplus and at the recommendation of our DPW superintendent. Police Department, 2008 vehicle, 2008 Chevrolet Tahoe, VIN number 1GNFK030X8R23 4385 with 65,820 miles, formerly PD Unit 173. Parks Department, 2006 Ford F-50 flatbed, I'm not going to read the VIN numbers, 22,441 miles. Highway Department, 2005 John Deere Gator with 1,144 hours. 1995 Cat 914 payloader with 9,641 hours. 2004 John Deere 5420 tractor with 4,441 hours. A 2004 Chevy F250 pickup truck with 104,012 miles. Building maintenance, 2006 Ford Explorer. That's it. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 7, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the hiring of the Cooper's Beach attendant at a rate of $16 per hour effective August 11th, 2023. James Gavin, and Tanner Marrow. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 8, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the termination request received from the Southampton Fire Department Administrator Dennis Chupe regarding Fire Police Company Number 1 member Elena Williams, effective August 22nd, 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we have a motion for the supplemental agenda?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Supplemental agenda item number 2, resolve that the Board of Trustees approves the hiring of Cooper's Beach lifeguard at a rate of $25 per hour effective August 25th, 2023. Brendan Reagan. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 3, resolved the Board of Trustees authorizes the village attorney and the village assessor to enter into a stipulation to settle Article 7 tax lien litigation between the village and 2B LLC related to property located at 4 Davids Court in the amount of $48,381 related to tax years 2013 through 2022 as identified in a proposed stipulation negotiated between the village assessor and counsel for 2B LLC. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, unanimous. Resolution number 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village attorney and the village assessor to enter into a stipulation to settle Article 7 tax lien litigation between the village and West Lawn LLC created to related to property at 107 Great Plains Road in the amount of $114,300.04 relating to tax years 2015 through 2023 as identified in the proposed stipulation negotiated between the village assessor and the Council for West Lawn LLC. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village clerk to publish a bid on behalf of the Superintendent of Public Works for the purchase of a used wheeled excavator. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second discussion. I just wanted to explain the reason for this purchase. It's, as everyone knows, we're having a little bit of a flooding problem throughout the village, and this excavator is specifically going to help with cleaning out the sumps, which have not been able to absorb the rainwater that's been coming down so quickly. So with the purchase of this excavator, we can do this work in-house to clean out sumps that haven't been cleaned out in many years, and there's a lot of growth in them, so they cannot absorb the water, which ends up staying on the streets. So that's the reason for this purchase.
Thank you.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 6, Mayor Manger appoints and requests a motion for the Board of Trustees to approve Be Ready Fishbein Donovan LLP to continue as special counsel effective September 7th to 2023 for a period of 60 days. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. And that concludes the resolution portion of the meeting.
Okay, so we'll go to comments from board members, and we will start with Trustee Aresta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just like to let everyone know we are continuing with sidewalk repair. Some of the sidewalks are sorely needed, and they need some tender loving care. And DPW has been continuing on that, and as well as spotting some areas that need sidewalks that needed to be connected into existing sidewalks. So that's been ongoing. We have a little bit of a Verizon update. We could talk about we met with Verizon today about additional antennas for the village. So I just want everyone to know that we are working on the cell problem that we have. In other words, no service in the village when it's so full. So we do know we need extra coverage, and we actually had a meeting with them today that went very well. I'm excited that Johnson Controls is going to have a kickoff. We're going to have a kickoff meeting with them actually the same day as our next meeting on September 14th. So I'm excited to start getting planning and starting the work done in the village with updates to our buildings and eventually in our route to going green. So I'm excited about that as well. And okay, and I guess that's just about it. So thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Trustee Aresta. We'll go to Trustee Brown.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to first say a special thank you to Mr. Steve Phillips and for Deputy Mayor for giving that special attention and quick attention to the stream flooding that was on Hillcrest Avenue. This is a special thank you from the residents of Hillcrest for attending to that, so we thank you. And on another note, I'm excited to say that our Southampton Fest will be the end of September the 30th to the 1st, and we'll be kicking off our Taking the Safety to the Street, and we will be having our first Coffee with a Cop. More to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. We'll go to Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I had my grandson Roy with me this past weekend, and it was my pleasure to bring him to the Southampton Fire Department chicken and barbecue dinner on Saturday night. And it was just an outstanding event, and he loved it. He couldn't stay to eat the delicious chicken and ribs, unfortunately, but I was just so impressed to attend that event, see the team spirit, the camaraderie, the gathering of all the people who donate their time and effort and to keep us safe. And it truly was inspiring to me to feel blessed to be a part of this community that has that fire department, has the emergency ambulance service, has the ocean rescue, and has our police department all working to keep us safe every day. And I really feel fortunate to live in this village. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stevens, and we'll go to Trustee Zananti.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the pleasure of taking a tour of the fire department. Following what Trustee Stevenson just said, I toured their facilities, saw their equipment, and understood their operations under the leadership of Manny, Rick, and Polis. Actually, while I was with them, a call came in, and we responded. They invited me to come with them in the chief's car, and thankfully it was a false alarm. But the police department was there as well as the fire department. So it was very interesting. I'm also trying to coordinate their needs with respect to communications and the ambulance needs with respect to communications with the Planning Commission, who has accepted our suggestion that they work on that kind of service for the village. I had an interesting personal issue that involved the police department. I was the victim of identity fraud, so I worked and saw how the process worked. I had never reported a crime here before. Got to know Police Officer Stetler and Detective Horstman, and they are following up, and hopefully we'll nab the bad guys, and I thank them. And I want to congratulate Charles Pelez as the Ordinance Enforcement Officer. I think it's important to help this village enforce the laws and improve the quality of life for its residents. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, Trustee Zananti. Yes, I would like to add that I think the village is going to benefit greatly from the addition of another code enforcement officer who's coming from the town of East Hampton to join Angel, and I think filling out additional, again, services here in the village to enforce the code will go a long way to helping quality of life issues here in the village. We are going to run that now out of the building department, and I think we are streamlining the services here. We do have also 2 people that are part-time for code enforcement, and so I think we're going to really strengthen that division within the village. And again, I'm hoping we can make a real dent in some quality of life issues that affect us all. Also, in terms of the flooding, as was mentioned by Trustee Brown, I do want to thank, again, Trustee Aresta and the Department of Public Works for all they've done to try and alleviate and mitigate some of the flooding. I did notice today that they were marking out some utilities on Halsey Neck Lane at the corner of Hill Street, because that's one of the locations where new storm drains are going to go in. There are several locations that have been identified. I did tour the village and saw the sites where we're going to be putting in some additional storm drains, because the storm drains in this village date from the 1940s, and really they need to be upgraded. I'm also hoping we can get some grant money for some additional stormwater abatement in the village, because we're just unable to handle the amount of rain that we've seen this summer. But there are some locations that are going to be addressed very quickly now, because I know that there are some homeowners that were inundated with floodwaters earlier this summer, and so that will be done probably in the next few weeks here, and I think that will be very good. So we're working very quickly to have that abatement and those steps taken by the Department of Public Works. And other than that, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight that came to hear the presentation on the potential park along Pond Lane. I thought it was very informative, and I appreciate everyone's patience being here to listen to the discussion, and certainly welcome anybody who wants to speak about it at the next meeting on September 14th, which will be an open session for public comment. And with that now, I would like to close this portion of the public meeting and go into executive session to discuss some personnel matters as well as legal matters. So I would like to make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. The time is 8:56. We are coming out of executive session where no action was taken. At this time, I am asking to, I guess, go back into open session so that we can adjourn the meeting, but I guess we have to do one thing at a time.
Right.
So we will close executive session and reopen regular session.
Motion to leave executive session, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now,
The record should indicate that no action was taken during executive session.
correct, no action was taken during executive session. And now, can we close the meeting?
You may.
All right, motion to close this meeting of the Village of Southampton Board of Trustees work session on the 22nd of August. The time now is 8:57 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.